right, part 3, Dream Warriors. I've been wanting to sink my teeth into this one because there is a musical connection. Not just that; it's one of my favorite sequels of all time. I mean, this number 3, Dream Warriors. We get a new character. We get I could be saying her name wrong, but Kristen.
Yes, that was Kristen. You're right.
Yeah, Kristen. Freddy basically makes her try to commit suicide and take to an asylum where we meet all these supposed dream warriors that all have the same experience of dealing with Freddy, right?
Right.
And they're not sure what to do with all these treatments. And then we have a return of Nancy Thompson as a doctor, which I think is just such a natural progression for the character, that she becomes a doctor studying these kids that are dealing with the same symptoms, same experience that they had with Freddy Krueger.
Well, when you think about it, she's basically like Ripley or Sarah Connor. She knows how to handle Freddy. Yeah, she knows what these kids are going through. She has that connection and bond. She gets them. She's the only one that really understands what's going on with their dreams and what's going on. Why?
And she helps the teens discover their powers.
Yes. In a way, think of it this way. It's kind of like a like Justice League or Avengers when they have their superpowers in the dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah. Remember the wizard one?
Very much sort of a superhero against the big bad kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, this was the movie that kind of launched Freddy into the stratosphere.
True.
When you talk about the musical connection, you cannot mention Dream Warriors without mentioning the 2 songs that show up, actually. One is unrelated to the album, but the other song that eagle ears, like me, that like a little heavy metal, Into the Fire, is the song that plays during the very, very beginning of the movie. Not the opening credits. At the very beginning of the movie, if you can listen on her radio, on Kristen's radio, it is Into the Fire by Dokken.
Right.
Dokken is the one that does the main soundtrack for this movie.
Right.
The Dream Warriors. Fitting enough, which has a music video with Freddy in it, and legend says, and I'm going to get a little bit behind the scenes with Dokken. Legend says that during the filming of the supposed music video, they were so high, the band were so high on cocaine, that Robert Englund actually supplied off his own Freddy gloves in full makeup. So Dokken, the heavy metal hard rock band, had snorted cocaine off of Freddy Krueger's gloves. Just
for real?
Yeah. Yep. Dokken and company, Don Dokken, George Lynch, etc., had snorted coke off of Freddy Krueger's gloves that Robert Englund had supplied. So it's pretty metal.
Damn.
As far as I'm concerned. So everybody kind of chortling at Dokken being this sort of hair band. Well, they're a little bit more metal than you think.
Right.
With that said, there's also an Alice Cooper connection. Alice Cooper did feature Robert Englund as Freddy on one of his albums, Raise Your Fist and Yell. Excuse me.
Right.
I'm sure John can edit in the album covers.
Yes.
In post, but Raise Your Fist and Yell, the track Lock Me Up, has Robert Englund as Freddy. So this is where Freddy not only goes mainstream, but goes metal.
Right.
And there's not really much I can really say that hasn't really been said about this film. The kills are fantastic.
Yes.
And every death kind of has some sort of pathos. Because it's written where you care about every single character.
I agree. That's why I like this one a lot, because I love the teenage character. They're very likable.
Yeah, they're very well written. Yeah, they're very, very well written.
They have personality.
Yeah, and this was the one I think that Wes came back to produce.
He did. But what's interesting, even though he was involved with this film, but this is kind of another film where, again, little studio interference, rewrites, and creative differences. So Wes Craven's still involved, but then like Frank Darabont and Chuck Russell like did some rewrites for this movie.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
But I'm glad they did, and I love the final product, and and it's just
like
it's an
basically
awesome
Frank Darabont said that he basically wrote the Freddy like jokes that Freddy says in this movie.
Right, and of course Freddy has some great one-liners. There were some great special effects.
Yes,
in this movie.
And the part when Jennifer Rubin's character's in her dream, where she's looking all like a heavy metal goth band, like this is for you.
I think it was Tina was her name in the film.
Let me check. Let me just.
I could be completely wrong. Excuse me. But yeah, the design of everybody's powers.
No, it was Tara, Taryn.
Tara, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's okay. There's this minor character named Lorenzo who was an orderly, but he was a piece of shit asshole. I hated this character. He harasses Taryn. The way he hits on her is disturbing. When she tells him to back off or I'll tell, and he says, "Are they gonna believe a junkie?" Anytime I go back to rewatch this movie, I ask myself, of all the people that kill in this movie, why didn't Freddy kill this piece of shit? At the same time, I get it. He was not part of the teen group. She's a teenager. He's an adult, and it's sickening. Her death scene is foreshadowed because she mentions that she's a former junkie, and Freddy Krueger basically kills her by ODing her.
But yeah, the design of everybody's powers. Also, I have to mention a cast member that would go on to do bigger and better things. Or maybe I'm not that familiar with his filmography, but we have to talk about Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
I couldn't forget that cameo, as well as the return of John Saxon. John Saxon does return in this movie. We do kind of get a final pathos of Nancy's dad.
Yeah.
Through the doctor, there's a doctor that kind of sort of.
There was Dr. Sims, who was like a Nurse Ratched type of character, like bitchy, who was not listening or caring about these
woman,
kids.
Nurse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, she was the one that was kind of, being like, you have to have sleep and all that stuff.
Right, right.
All the stuff. But, number 3, definitely one of my favorite sequels.
Mine too. No, it's definitely was one of the best of the series, and because like I said, I love the characters, and remember the dream with the kid who was into like Dungeons and Dragons and the wizard.
Yes, the wizard kid. Yes, in the wheelchair. Yeah,
a good friend of mine did like a spoof and parody and tributed that that was the 80s. There was no Harry Potter in his spoof video. He used Harry Potter as a joke and reference, and
I mean that's fitting.
It does. It works.
And of course this. I don't know if this was the movie that spawned it, but Marvel Comics does have a comic book line. Did have a comic book line in the 80s that kind of sort of extended Freddy's adventures of the movies. Kind of we didn't get with different characters. I actually own a few of the first movies, as well as later having a Nightmare on Elm Street series called Freddy's Nightmares. I don't know where to find it. It's sort of a Tales from the Crypt kind of deal with Freddy Krueger with Robert Englund.
Right.
Good series for what I've seen when it was on Tubi.
Right.
It's almost impossible to find.
That's okay. You were say it again, if you don't mind.
But yeah, basically, what I was just affirming that this was kind of the movie that really put Freddy Krueger on the map.
It did.
Pop culture icon.
Definitely.
Anyway, is there anything you want to add about that?
There is. It amazed me how, again, in a way, like the second film on a different level, it touched upon themes on teen suicide, mental illness, trauma, and drug addiction.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are applicable. I guess applicable today as it was in the 80s.
Oh yeah, but the only difference is more resources and more options for helping people with mental illness now. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the difference. Somewhat progressive, but still semi-long way. But again, I don't want to get too in depth in that part.
Yeah.
And also, it's interesting how did they get Zsa Zsa Gabor and Dick Cavett for a cameo in this movie? I don't see the connection.
Who knows? This was definitely a big sequel. And
right.
Considering the big sequel happens to be number 3, that says something.
Right. Also,
three is the 3 in terms of being in movies, not this particular third movie, but right. Usually when you think of number 3 in terms of movies, it's kind of the downturn.
Right. Gotcha. Also, what did you think of the nun that showed up every now and then? The twist.
Yeah, the nun that later we'll find out who she is. There's a connection. I kind of want to hold that off until number 4 when we get to number 4.
Okay, but I will say that when I first saw it, I didn't see that coming. Again, it was like an M. Night Shyamalan twist to some degree.
Right.
Sorry to spoil and say this, or as it turns out, she's Amanda Kruger, Freddy Krueger's mother. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also, I will say, well, this is also a spoiler right here. I didn't like it when Aunt Nancy was killed. I'm like, no, I wanted her to live and survive.
Yes, well, that's the big thing. This is the death of Nancy. This is the end of Nancy. Freddy Krueger literally uses the vision of her own father to kill Nancy. But it is a great sequence when Joey finally finds his voice and screams and kind of saves him. I
also like that skeleton scene at the with the cars. Like that was Jason Argonauts.
Yeah, exactly. The skeleton scene is pretty cool.
It is. Again, great 80s
like the religious. We're getting more into the religious kind of side of things, and Freddy is sort of a literal dream demon.
Right. And for you Riverdale fans, the guy who created Riverdale loves this movie. He was inspired for Riverdale.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but that's what I've learned from my friends about inspiration of this movie.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
With that said, do you want to move on to 4?
Let me see. Let me just see. Okay.
He's checking his list again.
Yes.
Like I said, I'd like to thank everybody for just sticking
what did you
around
think?
for as long as this is. We've been going on, I think, for an hour.
Almost.
Thank you for sticking around. It is a long one.
The part when Joey sees the nurse in his I'm thinking anime. Yeah, nurse.
Yes. The very seductive disguise for Joey. What's the matter, Joey? Feeling a little tongue-tied? Which is funny because one thing I've noticed in terms of the Freddy voice, it is the same actor, Robert Englund, but sometimes they lower the pitch, and then sometimes you can just hear Robert's real voice.
In the first one, his voice
was just a little funny thing I've noticed.
In the first one, his voice was dark, creepy. In this, it's a little bit more
and it changes throughout the series along with the makeup. But that's just that's
right.
But that's a little something. So anything you're missing here?
Nope. I think we've just summed it up, Paul.
All right.